Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
Hey, doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for being here. I understand you've got some really cool things to show off to us on some of the work that you've been doing lately.
There, yeah.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to share my screen quickly
Yeah.
here, and let me show you what I have been getting up to with Claude Code. So recently, I got super into Claude Code. I've been using Cursor and AI coding tools for a while, but pretty new to the Claude Code world. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do with it. This we're looking at now, actually, this is the Datadog Learning Center. And in my job, what I do is I develop all of these courses for security products. So I teach people how to use different security tools and products. It's a very fun job because you get to think about, oh, like, what do the bad guys do? And then how could people use these tools to stop them? But what I want to show you is that creating these courses is about two different things. It's about writing. So this is an example of writing that we do. We write these, what they're called text lessons or LMS lessons. And these are written explanations of ideas, images, helping introduce people to concepts. And then we also build hands-on labs. So for example, this is a lab I built that teaches people how to use some of our DevSecOps products. And this is all coding. It's like coding, technical artifacts, scripting, infrastructure as code. I'm doing both of those different things. So I had really been using things like Cursor and Claude Code for the coding part. And I recently started trying to get a little bit better and more thoughtful about how I could use it for the writing part of the job. And that's what I wanted to show you today.
Yeah.
So so when I write these courses, like my first goal was not only just how could like Claude help me write things like this, but it was also how could Claude help me write things like this, like in the exact style I myself would write it. And I started thinking about, okay, like when I'm making a course, what do I look at and what do I reference? And it's things like the Datadog documentation, obviously, and it's also things like we have a great blog, we have blog posts about our all of our different stuff going on. We have great posts about the security products. And then we also have product pages that are super informative. So I was kind of like, okay, this is what Tara the human looks at day to day. And then I started thinking about how could I teach Claude to look at these things the exact same way I would, and then work from them the same way I would. And if it sounds good to you, that's what I'm going to show you next.
Yeah. I think that sounds great.
All right, awesome. So this is a Cursor. Cursor is an IDE. Like if anyone's not familiar with it, it's similar to VS Code. It's built from a fork of VS Code. And I use Cursor for coding for a while, and I run the Claude Code CLI in Cursor. So let me like start from scratch and show you what I get up to in here. So in Cursor, like often what I'll do, you can run it right from your integrated terminal, or you'll see in a minute like how I use the IDE extension. But I started running Claude Code here in Cursor. It was all like very fancy and magic and automatic. It all got set up for me. And then I started thinking about, okay, how can I bring those things we were talking about, like the blog posts, the docs, into this environment for Claude Code and Cursor to both reference. And sometimes I like to get Claude Code and Cursor working together as like my army of minions
Mm.
doing things at the same time. So what I came up with is this Claude resources directory that I use. And I organized this Claude resources directory to have general level knowledge and then to have course level knowledge. So you saw those courses a moment ago. Right now, I'm working on a new course about automating security orchestration and automations with our Cloud Sim tool. And so I was like, okay, let me make a folder for each course that I'm working on. And let me just pull in all those things you just saw as markdown file right here for Claude to use and think about. That's like step one. And then the other thing, anybody who's who's used Claude Code knows, it's all about the Claude.md file. So at the project root, I set up this Claude.md file and I started just give it a bunch of instructions to teach it how to hopefully think like me, but better and smarter. And so like some of the key things that I've got going on with Claude Code here, I've given it like a mandate on what it's doing and what kind of writer it is and who the audience is. And then I've given an idea of here's the important things to understand about our repository structure. And one thing I should have pointed out, so the way that this repository is structured is we have subdirectories for each course you just saw in the Learning Center. And so everything you just saw that's available and free there, the source code and the source text for that is in these subdirectories. So I told Claude, okay, when we're working on something together, I want you to look at these references in this repository in a specific way. First of all, I want you to look at the branch that we're on, and I want you to match the branch name in Git to one of these subdirectories. And that's our course folder. So I've got one set up now for us an example. And actually, so you can see here in my terminal, we're on this branch that's called example cloud seam SOAR automation course branch. It matches that. So that's like one of the fundamental things. And then I told Claude, okay, when we're doing something together, the first thing I want you to look at is I want you to go into this Claude resources folder I set up for you, and I want you to look at the subdirectory that matches this course's name. So go in there first. Then I want you to look at all the general resources in this Claude resource folder. Then I want you to go look at some of the other Learning Center courses as examples. And specifically, I want you to go look at example security courses that I've written as the author. So like come back to that idea of like, how can you do it just like I would? So I've told Claude, go look at the courses I wrote. And I've also given it a bunch of other instructions. Look at the newest ones first, because I got hopefully better at my job over time, like all those kind of things. And this is like the setup. So this was like, okay, now I'm ready to see with these resources in place, what can I make Claude do basically?
I love this.
Oh yeah, as you say, sorry, I have any questions or anything like that?
No, what I love, I get so caught up sometimes in just the ability to develop fast, rapidly, and iterate and all this kind of stuff. And I think we all know the importance of slowing down and like properly setting up the project with the right context and making sure that the Claude file has everything. And if you're using Cursor, there's Cursor files. And if you're, depending on the tooling you're using, there's different ways to provide that extra context. And it's so important. That is the bread and butter of every successful LLM tool. And I just, in a world of everything getting faster, it's nice to see people still saying, no, I'm going to slow this down. I'm going to set the rules. I want it to sound like me. Here's a bunch of examples of what it sounds like me. And not in a weird take my job type of way.
Right.
This is a tool, and you're trying to get your stuff done, the things that you're responsible for. You're going to get it done, and you're trying to get it done in better and better ways. And these tools that are now available to us to do that in better ways. And so to learn how to do them, use them, that kind of thing. It's fun to see people implementing it in their work environments. If I'm used to a lot of experimenting with different tools, most of them, you can't really find a good way to get it into your day to day. So yeah, it's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I definitely, I relate to that. And really, like almost everything I've learned about Claude Code so far, I don't have LLM AI background or don't claim any expertise there. Everything I've learned is experimenting in personal projects and then bringing that to this, and also Reddit, like literally just Reddit.
Yeah.
So anything I say today, I'm just stealing from somebody on Reddit. And okay, so we looked a little bit at the setup, and what I really relate to that you said is like that step back piece. I'm not good at always doing that. And that's what I really tried to do here. Step back and think about it first. And that's what's given me good results. Okay, let's give it a try. You saw how I set up my resources. The goal here, these are all of our different Learning Center courses. The next goal is, all right, we've got an empty folder for our brand new course we're going to write. And I'm going to show you, I'm not going to make you endure me typing it. I'm going to show you an example of the kind of prompt I would use next. So I have a prompt here, and actually we can talk a little bit more about something called slash commands, which makes this repeatable, which is what I actually used to begin. I have a prompt here, and I'm telling Claude, okay, we're making a new course. Here's what it's about. Here's where we're going to find the most key thing, which is the outline. I didn't mention that earlier, but we also have documentation for our courses in development that I've got in these Claude resources folder. And I've given Claude several instructions, but basically the TLDR is, okay, from our different references, can you make this course directory have structure for me? And another thing that's really easy to do with Claude CLI is toggle between models. So I use this a lot personally. I'm very conscious about what model I'm using when. There's really only one thing I use the Opus model for, and it's not this. So I'm going to start by just having Sonnet outline the structure for me. And this is the other like thing about Claude Code that's so amazing is this toggle to plan mode is so easy. And you'll see in a minute what happens, but Claude is going to use my instructions and it's going to output a plan for me. We can iterate on the plan before Claude actually does anything or touches any of my files. Or I know people talk about like YOLO mode. I don't set Claude loose on anything unless it's very small task until we've talked about the plan together.
Yeah.
So you can see, all right, it's going to go look at like all those things. You can see it's referencing some of those courses based on what's in my Claude.md file. And now it's about to give me the plan for how it's going to structure my course. And like the output here is a structure like this, where we keep, these are our technical assets for our labs. Here's where we keep written lessons. And here's Claude's plan for me. It's telling me what it's going to do. So it's going to make these LMS lessons for me. It's going to make these directories in the lab folder for me. It's going to create our meta directory we use. And then I can go back and say, we are going to skip the summary lesson or now. And so it'll take my feedback, it'll adjust the plan, and then that's the point at which I'll set it loose.
It feels a lot like, to me, in the stuff that I do that's very similar, where it's just shortcutting stuff I needed to do in some way. Like I used to do it manually, and then I found other ways to make it more templatized. What a lot of these tools are doing for us and the ways we're using them is just like dynamic boilerplate. We know we need these things every single time. However,
Exactly.
there's just enough variance in them each time that I need to give you extra context for each one. But at the same time, like they're still cookie cutter.
Exactly.
And yeah, so this is the perfect use case for that, where the topic's going to change and like the outline's going to change, but the structure of how you build these things has to be the same, or it won't build. There's going to be build failures.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And actually, that's part of the beauty of it, right? Because for things like this, what we're creating here, consistency is really good. Consistent style and consistent high quality. And it's beyond just like, how can Claude do something for me? It's like, how can Claude elevate this and make it so what we were doing, but an even better output. Yeah, and we won't have time to talk about it today, but like on the repeatable note, there's so much Claude Code can do for you. There's like a bunch of templates I've created. I've learned a lot about how to make those repeatable workflows really easy and a lot faster. Okay, so looks Claude has worked through the to-do list. Let's go see what it's come up with. Looks like we've got a bunch of new files in here. You can see like from our example structure you saw a moment ago, it's created the lab subdirectory, it's created the LMS subdirectory, and it hasn't written anything yet. I will say like Claude is very like enthusiastic. So that's part of the specific instruction is don't write anything yet, because we're going to do that differently. If you don't tell Claude that, like Claude will do it all for you from the jump. So that's like purposeful, but the whole structure is there. And then I'm going to show you one more thing today. So I mentioned, actually, we're just talking about repeatability. So from that course structure, there's one other thing that Claude there's many other things Claude is really good at. There's one other thing here that Claude is really good at doing next, and outlining. So you saw those LMS files are blank. What I want Claude to do next is take the materials for this course and write a detailed outline that we can iterate on. And this gives me a chance to talk about what my very favorite obsession in Claude Code is, which is slash commands. And slash commands are literally just instructions. They're just repeatable instructions that you're going to give Claude again. And I have several of them for the course creation process. So from here, what I would be able to do is I could run this outline lessons from design doc command. It's going to write me a detailed outline for everything we're going to write in our LMS lessons. And that's the kind of thing that I would typically use Opus for. So we won't run it today, but let me just show you an example. So I run this clear command to clear Claude Code's context. That's really different than what I was doing with AI before, where often my ChatGPT or something go back and forth together all day. Claude really seems to function when you're like perfecting your context every time. I heard the term context poisoning, and that has really been true for me. The less in context, almost sometimes the better. Yeah. Yeah, which is, I like more and more. So you'd think, okay, the more we give it, the better. But actually, it's really, for me, the best results have been from making sure to give it the right thing.
Yeah. There's like a bloat. There's like a point where it's just too much. It's not helpful anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And like I use some other thing like Subagents to validate and do style checks when we're done. And that's really one thing I've really learned is it's not good to give Claude instructions off the jump what not to do because it almost it's like anyone. It almost like subconsciously like plants the idea in Claude's mind. If I say, okay, like you please don't do this, it's okay, I'm gonna do that by accident. You know what I mean? And so what I learned is like these sub agents, we could talk about that all day, but they really help you keep a clean context. You don't put the don'ts in the context that Claude is using to write. And so anyway, what I would do from here is, first of all, you could switch the model. This is one use case in which I would use Opus, is taking all of these materials and writing the really detailed outline. And then I have like my slash command that I have ready. So let's see, the one that we have here is outline LMS lessons from outline. And so when I run this slash command, Claude's going to kick into gear. It's going to write me a detailed outline. And then from there, I have all these other tools within Claude that I would use to write the actual course. So that's like a preview and maybe a little bit about getting started, how I approached building a system to, like you said, like repeatably help me write really good courses for our learning center. And then from there, I just learned more and more. And now I've got like a whole configuration scheme that we could probably honestly talk about all day.
Yeah. No, I love this. Cool. Yeah, this is so awesome, Tara. Thank you for showing us this. And yeah, we definitely need to talk about some other subjects, I think, but I would also love to revisit this. I feel like things just move so fast and it'd be cool. Like, I know I'm changing the way I do things on a monthly basis.
I
I'm
know.
sure you're probably experiencing the same thing too. So it'd be fun to revisit this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I was like, you could tell, like I said, I'm not really a big AI person or anything like that, but I've just, once like I started using Claude Code, I really fell in love with it. And there's so much to talk about. The functionality is growing all the time. And honestly, it's also like really fun. Like it's fun. I swear I get like a dopamine hit when I see what it comes back from.
Yeah.
And so that's been part of the journey as well, for sure. I really enjoy using it.
Yeah, I'm 1000% agree. It has unlocked me to given me like, I feel like I up leveled to like a new
Exactly.
level of just being able to create the things that I want, solve the problems I have.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. And we'll say goodbye here and we'll talk to you again in the future.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
All right, bye.